and I'm going to hand over now to Mark Steed. And Mark, Principal and CEO of the Kellett School, the British school in Hong Kong, as I said, has been influential on our thinking. And I think in terms of digital change, digital cultures, and making sure that digital grows in the way that we'd like to see it grow. I think he's been a major voice across the sectors. Mark, welcome to the launch of the Developing Digital Guide.
Thank you, Ty, and it's great to be with you all today. This is an exciting sort of culmination of a lot of work by a lot of good people, and it's a really good publication. I suppose I've been asked to give a bit of an introductory overview in terms of how we got to where we are today, and I've got 5 minutes to sort of gallop through that. So I really want to sort of take us back 10 years ago, and these are some actually slides that I used in a presentation on digital strategy back then. And at the time, I was hugely critical of the way in which EdTech was being dominated by suppliers. At the time, educationalists didn't really know what they wanted. EdTech filled the gap and said, this is what you need. And the consequence was that we ended up with a lot of smart boards in schools that ended up being particularly expensive mice. Then we ended up with VLEs, and of course, just round the corner came the launch of iPads, which was incredibly patchy in how it was done very early on. And so I think there are sort of a number of lessons that we can learn, and I think where we are today is that we have a wonderful relationship between educationalists and EdTech, and that's partly because I think that we've started to put education at the heart of what's going on rather than the technology, and that's been a journey that's taken that at least the last 10 years. So if I've got anything to say, it's this: that digital transformation is not about equipment, it's not about kit, it's about vision, pedagogy, people, and digital governance. And I think I just want to very, very briefly unpack each of those four key ingredients. I think if you start with EdTech, you're starting in the wrong place. We should start with a school educational vision, and that will vary from school to school. Some schools will be high performing, measure success in terms of academic outcomes in exam results and so on. Other schools will have other measures around what they want to achieve. But whatever that vision is, that the EdTech vision has to sit underneath that and support it. And so you can't start with the EdTech vision. That's got to come out of the school educational vision. And as a consequence of that, educational priorities need to drive IT decisions, and that's really difficult to do. So I think the way in which I've developed over the years, and this appears in the booklet, is that the school educational strategy needs to feed into the digital strategy, but then you have to have underneath that different user groups from, whether it's from primary schools or secondary schools or from the admin team. So you get a bottom-up approach to digital strategy. So the digital strategy groups where that whole school strategy meets the user groups, and therefore it can put everything in place to make an effective strategy. If it's totally top-down, users won't have buy-in. If it's totally bottom-up, it tends to be anarchy. The third point is find the right people and put them in the right job. And this is my team at Jess, and only one of them was in the job that they started. After my 4 years there, the same post. A lot of them were in the school. They just weren't in the roles they were in. So it is getting back to the sort of good to great philosophy of not only getting the right people on the bus, but making sure they're in the right seats. We had a lot of talent within the organization. They just weren't being made the most of in terms of the roles they had. And I think investing in people is one of the most important things. And the reason why EdTech hasn't worked over the years is because people haven't had enough training. They haven't had enough support, and that's been a key factor. So I think one of the most important things is putting the training in. So get the right people in the right job and don't stop training them. And then finally, I think digital governance is a really important thing. You need to have rules. You need to have rules and you need to police them. And those rules might be around what devices you're going to use. It might be around what your systems are, where your data sits and so on, a whole range of rules. So, for example, when I was at Jess, we had a rule that everything was in Office 365 and all data was in ISAMs. And that was our rule. We didn't allow Google in any shape, size, or form. I now work in a school which is sort of totally the other way around. And when I work when we have a Google Classroom, it doesn't matter what your solution is, but you've got to have a set of rules and you've got to stick to them, and that becomes crucial. And so these 4 lessons about education driving the vision, pedagogy driving IT decisions, getting the right people in the roles and training them, and then making rules and policing them, I think are the key factors to why educational technology is beginning to have a real impact. And just to finish with, I think that one of the things that we've seen in the past few months is that education in partnership with EdTech suppliers can actually achieve much more than we ever thought was possible. And the way in which we've responded to the virus has been unbelievable, because it's about partnership across the sectors and between educationists and suppliers. Thank you all very much.
Thanks, Mark. That was fantastic. Let's just keep your slide up there. If you just go back to that slide, just perhaps, if we could, thank you. Yeah. You don't mind hundreds of emails, Mark?